The papers were still warm when I folded them. She had slid them across the marble table like a prop, lips curved in a smile she practiced in mirrors. Divorce, she said lightly, as if it were a rehearsal line. Just for now. Just to calm him down. Just a performance. I remember the sound of the cafe more than her voice. Cups clinking, a violinist outside missing notes, rain tapping the glass like it wanted to come in and interrupt us. I signed without arguing. That was when her smile faltered. She thought I would beg. She thought I would play my role. What she didn't know was that I had already mourned her, months ago, in the silence between us, in the nights she came home smelling like unfamiliar cologne, in the way she spoke my name like it belonged to someone else. When I stood up, she laughed nervously. "Don't be dramatic," she said. "This is just temporary." I didn't answer. Walking out felt unreal, like stepping off a stage into darkness where no one was watching. The rain finally hit me then, cold, honest, unforgiving, and for the first time in years I realized something terrifying and freeing. She thought this was an act, but I had already decided. I wasn't coming back. I loved her quietly. That was my mistake. Not the kind of quiet that comes from shyness or uncertainty. No, this was the deliberate silence of a man who believed love meant disappearing into someone else's needs. I learned the language of her moods through the weight of her footsteps on our apartment floor. Heavy meant deadlines. Light meant she'd gotten praise. Hesitant meant I should already have the tea brewing before she asked. I never asked. I just knew, or thought I did. I built my life around her comfort the way architects design buildings around light. Every angle calculated to illuminate her, even if it meant I stood in shadow. I mistook proximity for intimacy. I confused being needed with being wanted. She would smile at me over breakfast, her hand briefly covering mine. "You're so steady," she'd say. "I don't know what I'd do without you." What she meant, though I couldn't hear it then, was that I never made noise when she drifted away. We met when neither of us had much. A small apartment with paint peeling in the corners, shared plates because we couldn't afford separate sets. Big promises whispered at 3 in the morning when the city finally went quiet. I thought growing together meant growing equally, two plants in the same soil, reaching toward the same sun. I didn't notice when she started outpacing me, not financially, emotionally. She began looking past me at dinner, through me during conversations. Her eyes would focus somewhere beyond my shoulder, as if I were a window she was trying to see through rather than a person worth looking at directly. She became radiant in public, confident in rooms that used to intimidate her, admired by people whose names I couldn't track. I watched her bloom into someone I barely recognized, someone who spoke with authority about ambition and vision and refusing to settle. And I became the shadow beside her in photos, cropped out of her Instagram stories, unnamed in her speeches, reduced to my partner when I appeared at all. "Success changes people," she said once, scrolling through comments on a post where I didn't appear. "You have to adapt or get left behind." I believed her. I thought she meant we'd adapt together. At night, she scrolled her phone with her back turned to me, the blue light casting her face in cold relief. I would lie there, counting the minutes of silence that stretched between us like an unspoken accusation. Sometimes I'd reach for her, my hand tentative on her shoulder, hoping for warmth, for recognition. She would flinch, not in fear, but in something worse, inconvenience. "I'm tired," she'd murmur, pulling away. "Big day tomorrow." There was always a big day tomorrow, never a moment today. I told myself love endured. That devotion meant patience. That marriage was supposed to weather these storms. That's what the vows meant, wasn't it? For better or worse. But patience, I learned too late, can rot into self-erasure if you're not careful. It becomes a kind of martyrdom where you confuse your own diminishment with virtue. I didn't know there was another man then. Or maybe I did and refused to see him, the way you refuse to acknowledge a crack in the foundation because examining it means admitting the whole structure might collapse. Loving her had become automatic, like breathing, and habits are hardest to break, especially when you confuse them for survival, when you've forgotten what it feels like to exist outside someone else's gravity. The rain started that night, soft at first, then insistent, drumming against the window like a question I didn't want to answer. Each drop seemed to carry its own accusation, its own small truth I'd been avoiding. I thought about all the versions of myself I'd abandoned to become her satellite, The writer who'd stayed up until dawn working on stories. The photographer who'd seen beauty in ordinary moments. The man who'd had opinions, boundaries, dreams that didn't revolve around someone else's orbit. Where had he gone? When had I traded him for this quieter, smaller version? She made a small sound in her sleep. Not my name, never my name anymore. I watched the shadows move across the ceiling, listened to her breathing, steady and unconcerned. She was sleeping peacefully, content in the knowledge that I would still be there in the morning, that I would always be there. And the most terrifying part was that until that moment, I'd believed it too. Believed that loving her meant accepting less and less until there was nothing of me left to lose. She slept with her back to me. I lay awake, listening to the storm, and wondered when exactly I had disappeared. Wondered if I could find my way back, or if it was already too late. She started mentioning his name casually, too casually. Daniel said something interesting today, she remarked, tying her hair in the mirror, her fingers moving with practiced efficiency. She didn't look at me. She rarely did anymore. He understands my ambition, the drive to be more than comfortable. She paused, met my reflection's eyes. You're too gentle to get it. I smiled, forced the corners of my mouth upward like lifting weights. Maybe I am. Jokes were safer than questions. Questions had edges. They could cut through the careful pretense we'd wrapped around ourselves. Daniel. The name appeared everywhere after that, weaving itself into our conversations like a thread I couldn't pull without unraveling everything. He was at dinners I wasn't invited to, networking events you'd be bored. He appeared in stories she half told, narratives that began with enthusiasm and ended in sudden silence when she remembered I was listening. In photos she deleted too quickly, her thumb moving with guilty speed across her screen. I saw one once before it vanished, her laughing, head thrown back, and him beside her, louder than me, sharper, the kind of man who filled rooms and believed he deserved them. Who's that? I asked. Just the team, she said. But her voice had an edge, defensive, new. He was taller than me. I noticed that in another photo she forgot to delete. Broader shoulders, the kind of confidence that comes from never having doubted yourself, from a life where doors open and you assume it's because you deserve it, not because someone held them for you. When I finally asked, carefully over dinner she barely touched, she sighed like I was exhausting. Don't be insecure. He's helping my career. She cut her food with more force than necessary. This is what professional relationships look like. That word, helping, became a blade I felt twist every time she said it. She began comparing us without meaning to, or perhaps she meant to, and I was supposed to be grateful for the lesson, his decisiveness. Daniel just makes things happen, you know? He doesn't overthink every decision. His confidence. He told his boss exactly what he wanted. No apologies. That's how you get ahead. His willingness to take risks. You're so cautious. Sometimes you have to bet on yourself. And what was I? Stability. Background noise. The place she returned to when applause faded and she needed someone who wouldn't ask for anything in return. I watched myself shrink. Not physically, though I stopped going to the gym, stopped caring about the shirts I wore, but internally. I became smaller in my own estimation, measuring myself against a man I'd never met and finding myself lacking in ways I couldn't articulate. One night I heard her laugh through the bathroom door. She'd taken her phone in there, privacy she'd never needed before. The sound carried through the thin walls of our apartment, clear and bright and utterly unfamiliar. It was her laugh, but not the one I knew. This was lighter, younger, unguarded, the laugh of someone who hadn't been disappointed yet. I hadn't heard her laugh like that in months, maybe years. Something cracked quietly inside me, a hairline fracture I could feel but not see, the kind of damage that spreads slowly until the whole structure collapses. Still, I said nothing, because loving her had trained me to swallow pain gracefully, to metabolize hurt into something that looked like patience. The affair didn't explode into my life like the dramatic reveals in movies. No lipstick on collars, no hotel receipts, no tearful confession. It seeped in, like water damage behind walls, invisible until the structure's already compromised. Late nights became later. Important project. Her phone face down on every surface. New perfume. A brightness in her eyes that dimmed the moment she saw me. You seem happy, I said once. I am, she replied, and for a moment something like guilt flickered across her face. Work is going really well. Work. Always work. By the time I realized I was already bleeding, she had rewritten the story so well that even I wasn't sure if I had the right to be hurt. Maybe this was normal. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe love was supposed to feel like slow drowning. She came home late that night, humming a song I didn't recognize. Something upbeat, modern. The kind of music she used to dismiss as shallow. I pretended to be asleep, my breathing carefully measured. Through barely opened eyes, I watched her move through our bedroom in the darkness, careful not to wake me. But there was a lightness to her movements I hadn't seen in months, a kind of joy that used to belong to us. She went to the bathroom, and I heard her phone buzz, once, twice, 3 times in quick succession. In the darkness, I heard her laugh, soft, secret, meant only for whoever was on the other side of that screen. I listened to that laugh, memorized it, understood finally what it meant. And I knew. The rain had stopped. The city outside was silent. But inside me, something louder than thunder was beginning to break. She didn't confess. She negotiated. We need to divorce, she said, stirring her coffee with measured precision. The spoon clinked against ceramic, a small, ordinary sound that somehow contained the end of everything. We were at our kitchen table, the same table where we'd eaten birthday cake 5 years ago, where I'd proposed with shaking hands, where we'd planned a future that now felt like fiction. Her eyes were bright, excited, like she'd just solved a complex problem. Just on paper, she added quickly, leaning forward. Legally, not real. The distinction seemed important to her, as if paperwork didn't count, as if vows could be filed away like taxes. Daniel's insecure about it, she continued, and there it was. His name, no longer hidden, sitting between us like a third person at the table. If we stay married, it complicates things. For him, for us. Us. I wasn't sure who that referred to anymore. This is temporary, she said, her hand reaching across the table, stopping just short of touching mine. You know I love you. You're my home. This is just logistics. Love. Used like a prop in a play I hadn't auditioned for. She spoke quickly, the words rehearsed, polished. She'd practiced this speech. Benefits? I could keep the apartment. Timing? Better to do it now, quietly, before it got messy. Public image? We'd tell people we were focusing on individual growth. Corporate language for betrayal. Nothing between us has to change, she promised, her voice earnest, as if she believed it. We'll still be us, just separately, until things settle down with Daniel. Then we can figure it out. Figure it out, as if marriage were a math problem with multiple solutions. I watched her mouth move, forming justifications, building arguments. She'd mapped this conversation like a business presentation, anticipated my objections, prepared counterpoints. She expected resistance, tears, drama, the kind of scene that would make her the victim, allow her to reframe my pain as manipulation. I realized then how small she thought I was. Small enough to manipulate, small enough to wait, small enough to accept scraps and call it love. The coffee had gone cold between us. Outside, someone laughed, bright and uncomplicated. I asked one question, just one. And when he's satisfied, when the divorce isn't temporary anymore? She paused. Her spoon stopped mid-stir. For a moment, something flickered across her face. Calculation, perhaps, or honesty she hadn't planned to show. Then she smiled, bright, rehearsed. We'll see. 2 words that contained universes of meaning. 2 words that told me everything. That was the moment the marriage died. Not on paper, but in my chest. I felt it stop. The thing that had kept me tethered to her, believing in her, making excuses for her. It simply stopped. Okay, I said. Her smile wavered. Okay? I'll sign. I stood, collected my cup, rinsed it in the sink. My hands were steady, my voice calm. I'd expected to shatter in this moment. Instead, I felt strangely solid, clear. Wait, her chair scraped back. That's it? You're not angry? I wanted to tell her that anger required hope, that rage was for people who believed they could still change outcomes. and I had none left. Where are you going? Her voice climbed an octave. Panic poorly disguised. Out, I said. I need to think. About what? I just explained everything. This works for everyone. Everyone. Meaning her. Meaning him. I turned at the door. She stood in the middle of our kitchen, coffee cup in hand, looking suddenly uncertain, like an actress who'd lost her place in the script. You think I'll come back? I said quietly. You always do. Not a question. A fact. Stated with the confidence of someone who'd never been contradicted. I almost laughed, almost cried, did neither. You're right, I said. I always have. The past tense hung between us. I walked out, down the stairs, into the street where rain had started to fall. Light, apologetic, the kind that gets you wet without you noticing. Behind me, I heard our apartment door open. Wait, she called. We need to talk about the lawyer. I kept walking. You're being dramatic. Her voice carried down the street. This is why I can't, why we need space. You make everything so difficult. I turned the corner, and she let me go because she thought I would return for the next act, because she'd written this story where I was the supporting character, the one who waited in the wings while she took her bows. She didn't know yet that I'd already written my exit. The rain picked up. I didn't look back. Silence was brutal at first, not the comfortable quiet of two people who don't need words. This was the screaming kind of silence, the absence so loud it filled every room I entered, every thought I tried to complete. No messages lighting up my phone at odd hours. No arguments about whose turn it was to do dishes. No explanations owed or required. Just empty mornings where I made coffee for one and nights that stretched endlessly, filled with nothing but the sound of my own breathing. I learned how loud absence could be, how it had weight and texture, how you could almost see it in the spaces where someone used to stand. The apartment felt wrong without her chaos, too neat, too quiet. Her mess had been evidence of life, clothes draped over chairs, half-finished projects scattered across surfaces. Now everything stayed exactly where I put it, which somehow made the space feel more temporary than home. I moved after 3 weeks. Couldn't afford to keep paying rent on memories. The new place was smaller, cheaper, in a neighborhood I didn't know. No history in the walls, no ghosts in the corners. I sold the ring, not out of spite, but necessity. It felt strangely appropriate, trading one kind of value for another. I changed routines with deliberate precision. New coffee shop, different route to work, stopped going to the restaurants we'd claimed as ours. Each change felt like betrayal, to the man I used to be, to the life I'd planned, to the version of myself who'd believed love meant sacrifice. But that man was drowning. I had to let him go to survive. Pain came in waves. Some days I drowned in it, couldn't get out of bed, couldn't see the point of showering or eating or pretending any of it mattered. Other days I floated numb and disconnected, watching my life from a distance as if it belonged to someone else. But slowly, so slowly, I almost didn't notice. Something strange began to happen. I could breathe. Not the shallow breathing of someone in constant tension waiting for the next disappointment. Deep breaths, full lungs, the kind of oxygen that reaches your blood. I picked up old dreams I'd abandoned, the photography course I'd wanted to take, the novel I'd started writing in college, skills and ambitions I'd shelved to support hers, telling myself there would be time later, after she was settled, after her career took off. Later had never come, so I made it come now. I worked obsessively, not to prove anything to her, not to fill the void she'd left, but to feel solid again, to build something that was mine. Each small success, a photo accepted into a gallery, a chapter that didn't make me cringe, a skill mastered, stitched something back together. I started sleeping better, eating actual meals, laughing at jokes in the break room. She didn't notice at first. She was busy being adored, playing house with Daniel, posting happiness like a trophy, carefully curated photos of their life together, brunch at trendy restaurants, weekend getaways, captions about authenticity, and finally being myself. I unfollowed her, not blocked. That felt too dramatic, too much like I still cared enough to make a statement. Just quietly removed her from my feed. 3 months passed, then 4. I got promoted. Small step up, but it came with recognition. My name on projects, my ideas implemented, people listening when I spoke. One evening, I was leaving a gallery opening. My photograph had sold, first time ever, when my phone buzzed, her name on the screen, not a text, a call. I stared at it for 3 rings, 4, let it go to voicemail. She called again immediately. I answered on the fourth ring. Hello? Heavy breathing, background noise, music, maybe, or traffic. Where are you? Her voice trembled, unfamiliar in its uncertainty. Not how are you? Not I'm sorry. Not I made a mistake. Where? As if I'd simply wandered off and she needed to collect me. I'm out, I said, keeping my voice neutral. We need to talk. A statement, not a request. About what? About us. About... She paused. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller. Things aren't working out. With Daniel. Ah, there it was. He's not who I thought he was, she continued, words tumbling out now. He's controlling, jealous, nothing like... She caught herself. I miss you. I miss us. Us. That word again, meaning whatever she needed it to mean. This was never supposed to be permanent, she said, and I could hear tears now. Real or performed, I couldn't tell anymore. You know that. We were always supposed to find our way back. I listened quietly. The gallery behind me was still lit, people laughing inside, celebrating art and life and small victories. I've moved on, I said finally. She laughed, that same nervous laugh from the cafe from a lifetime ago. Don't be dramatic, you're upset, I get it, but this is... I mean it, I interrupted. I've moved on, not romantically, existentially. The line went quiet. Come back, she said finally, her voice breaking. Please, we can fix this. We were good together, remember? Remember when... I wish you well, I said. What? I hope you're happy. I mean that. I ended the call. The silence afterward was different. Not brutal, not empty. Just quiet. Real quiet. The kind you choose. Her voice trembled on the voicemail she left that night. Then another, then 3 more. I know you're angry. Call me back, please. This isn't fair. You won't even talk to me. I made a mistake. Isn't that what you wanted to hear? I listened to each one once, deleted them, not out of cruelty, out of preservation. She started reaching out more, texts at odd hours, 2 a.m., dawn, lunch breaks, each one a different strategy. Remember that restaurant we loved? I drove by it today. Your mom asked about you. I didn't know what to tell her. I can't stop thinking about the last thing you said to me. I didn't respond. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because I'd learned that every response was interpreted as an opening, every word as negotiation. Then she started showing up. First at my workplace. I was in the neighborhood, standing in the lobby, looking smaller somehow, vulnerable in a way she never had been before. Makeup smudged, hair not quite perfect. Can we talk? Just coffee. I'm on a deadline, I said, which was true. 5 minutes. I don't think that's a good idea. Her face crumpled. You can't even give me 5 minutes? After everything? After everything. As if the years we'd spent together entitled her to infinite chances. I'm sorry, I said, and meant it. I really am, but no. I walked past her to the elevator, felt her eyes on my back, heard her breath catch, preparing words she didn't say. The doors closed between us. She came to the coffee shop I'd started frequenting, sat down across from me without invitation. You're avoiding me. Yes, I said simply. The honesty seemed to stun her. She'd been expecting denial, argument, something she could push against. Why? Her voice broke, real tears now, not the careful kind she'd used to manipulate. These were messy, uncontrolled. I'm trying. I'm actually trying. Isn't that what you always wanted? I wanted you to try when we were still married. I made a mistake. You made a choice, I corrected gently. There's a difference. She reached across the table for my hand. I moved it to my lap. When I told you I'd moved on, I said, I meant it, not romantically, not with someone else, just away from you. But why? Her voice climbed, desperate. We were good. We could be good again. I know I hurt you, but people make mistakes. People change. You're not changing, I said. You're just losing. The words landed like stones. She flinched. Losing? Your safety net, that's what I was. The place you could return to when things got hard, when Daniel stopped being exciting and started being work. That's not fair. It's true. My voice stayed level, kind even. You loved having me when I was small, when I didn't ask for anything, when I existed to support you. She was crying openly now. People were staring. That's not, I did love you. I do love you. Maybe, I acknowledged, but only the version of me that never left. Understanding dawned in her eyes, then rejection of that understanding, then anger. So what? You're just done? After everything we built? You dismantled what we built. I'm just accepting it. I don't accept it. She stood, her chair scraping loudly. I don't. You don't get to just give up on us. I'm not giving up, I said quietly. I already gave. Everything. You spent it. She stood there, shaking, mascara streaking her cheeks. For a moment, I saw the woman I'd married, the one who'd whispered promises at 3 a.m., who'd laughed at my terrible jokes, who'd made me believe in forever. But I also saw the woman who'd negotiated my removal like a contract, who'd compared me to another man and found me lacking, who'd expected me to wait while she explored other options. I'm sorry this hurts, I said, and meant it. I really am. Then stop doing it. Her voice was small now, pleading. Just stop. I packed up my laptop, left money for my coffee. Take care of yourself, I said. I walked out into afternoon light. Behind me, I heard her sob, one sharp, broken sound. I didn't look back. That night, she sent one more message. You're right. I loved you when you were small, because big scared me. I'm sorry I couldn't love all of you. I read it 3 times. Then I wrote back, I forgive you, but I can't come back. Her response came immediately. Can't or won't. I thought about it. Really thought. Both. The typing indicator appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then nothing. For the first time in years, my phone stayed quiet through the night. And I slept. She watched from afar as my life expanded. I didn't know she was watching at first. I'd removed her from my social media, blocked her number, erected careful boundaries to protect the fragile growth happening inside me. But people talk. Mutual friends who still orbited both of us, carrying news like messenger pigeons they couldn't help being. She asked about you. My friend Marcus mentioned casually over drinks. Seemed shaken. What did you tell her? That you're doing well. You look different. Better. Better. The word felt both true and insufficient. My photography was gaining recognition. Small galleries at first, then larger spaces. Critics using words like haunting and deeply personal. Each piece I created felt like excavation, digging through layers of who I'd been to find who I actually was. Work promoted me again. Real responsibility, projects that mattered, my name on presentations, people asking for my input, valuing my perspective. I joined a speakers panel about creative burnout, talked about losing yourself in someone else's story, about reclaiming your own narrative. How did you find your voice again? The moderator asked. I stopped waiting for permission to exist, I said. The room applauded. Strangers approached afterward, sharing their stories, thanking me. I posted a photo from the event. Me at the podium, mid-speech, looking confident. She liked it within minutes. Then I made my account private. She tried to reinsert herself gently after that. Nostalgia deployed like a strategic weapon. Through Marcus. She mentioned that place you two used to go for breakfast. Through my colleague Sarah. Someone named Elena called the office. Said she had information about a photography opportunity. Should I give her your new number? No, I said. Thank you. Through my mother. Such a sweet girl called me, darling. Said she was worried about you. Mom, we're divorced. Yes, but she sounded so concerned. Mom, my voice firm. She doesn't get to do this. Please don't give her information about me. A long pause. You really have moved on. I really have. She sent emails to my professional address, subject lines like thought of you, inside, memories, photos, inside jokes, songs. Remember when you said we were building something permanent? I still believe we can. I archived them unread, created a filter that sent anything from her address directly to trash. But love that survives only when you're small isn't love. That's what I'd learned. She didn't want me back because she'd realized my value. She wanted me back because I was no longer available, because the safety net had developed opinions, its ownership, the instinct to reclaim what you've discarded only when someone else might claim it or when it claims itself. I didn't hate her. That was the most painful part for her, I think. Hate would have meant I still felt something sharp, something she could work with, but I'd moved past hate through anger, beyond resentment. I'd arrived at indifference, not the cold kind, the kind that comes from truly wishing someone well while understanding that well doesn't include you. 6 months after the coffee shop meeting, I ran into her at a bookstore. Pure accident. She was in the fiction section. I was looking for a book on composition theory. We saw each other at the same moment. "Hi," she said, careful, testing. "Hi, you look good." "Thanks, you too." Different hair, different style, like she was trying on a new identity. "I've been following your work," she said. "The gallery show last month looked amazing." "You went?" "No, just saw the posts, people sharing it." She shifted. "I'm proud of you." The words should have meant something. A year ago, they would have. "Thank you," I said. Silence stretched, not uncomfortable, complete. "I should," she gestured vaguely toward the checkout. "Yeah, me too." She took a step, then turned back. "Are you happy?" Honest, I thought. Actually curious. "I'm working on it," I said. "Getting closer every day." She nodded slowly. "That's good, really good." "Are you?" She smiled. Sad but real. "Also working on it." We stood there for another beat. Then she walked away, and I let her go. No dramatics, no final words, no closure that felt like closure. Just two people who'd once been everything to each other, now politely exiting each other's stories. I bought my book, went home. My apartment, my actual home now, was quiet, but not lonely. I had plans that evening, dinner with friends who knew the current version of me, not the ghost I'd been. The book sat on my coffee table. Sunlight streamed through windows I'd chosen. Everything in this space was mine, chosen by me, for me. And that felt like enough, more than enough. It felt like the beginning of something I'd been searching for without knowing it. Freedom, not from her specifically, but from the need to be anyone's anything, just mine. We met one last time, not by accident. She asked, through Marcus, her designated intermediary. She says it's important, that she needs closure. I almost said no, but something in me, some final thread of compassion or curiosity, made me agree. One meeting, public place, 1 hour. She agreed immediately. We met at a park, neutral territory, afternoon light. She arrived first, sitting on a bench, hands folded, staring at nothing. She looked up when my shadow fell across the grass, stood quickly, nervously. "Thank you for coming," she said, formal. "You said it was important." "It is." She gestured to the bench. "Can we sit?" We sat, careful distance between us. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she cried, not calculated tears. These were raw, ugly, real, the kind you can't fake because it makes you too vulnerable. "I underestimated you," she said finally. "I thought," she laughed bitterly, "I thought you would always wait, that you'd always be there, ready to catch me when I fell." I said nothing. "I treated you like a safety net, like insurance, something I could count on but didn't have to invest in." She wiped her face. "And when you actually left, I told myself you'd come back because you always had before." "I always had," I agreed quietly. "But you didn't this time." She looked at me, really looked. "You actually left. And I didn't understand how much I'd lost until I saw you without me." A breeze moved through the trees. Children played somewhere nearby. "I saw your speech," she continued. "The one about finding your voice. Someone posted it online, and I realized I'd never heard you talk like that. So confident, so present, like you were finally taking up space instead of making space." "That's what leaving you gave me," I said. Not cruel, honest. She flinched but nodded. I know that now." Another breath. "I loved who you were becoming. After. But I hated that I had to lose you for you to become that person." "You didn't lose me," I corrected gently. "You left me. There's a difference." "I know." We sat in silence, comfortable almost. "I wanted to tell you something," she said finally. "Not to change your mind. I know I can't, but because you deserve to hear it." I waited. "I loved you deeply," she said, voice steady now. "I did, but I loved the version of you that never left, the one who was predictable and safe and always there." She paused. "I was terrified of you being more than that, because if you were more, you might realize you deserved more." The honesty was startling. "And you were right," she continued. "That day at the coffee shop, I did love you when you were small, because big meant you had options. Big meant you might choose differently. I did choose differently, I said. I know, a sad smile. And it was the right choice. For you. Maybe for both of us. She reached for my hand then, tentative. I looked at her hand, hovering between us, remembered all the times I'd reached for her and been rejected. I stepped back, not dramatically, not with anger, just back. I don't hate you, I said. I want you to know that. I don't even resent you anymore, but I can't give you absolution, can't tell you it's okay or that it all worked out, because it didn't work out for us. It worked out for me, despite us. She nodded, hand falling back. I understand. I hope you find what you're looking for, I said. I really do. But it's not with me. It can't be. I know. Her voice small. I think I've known for a while. I just needed to hear it from you. Needed to say these things out loud. We stood, faced each other like strangers. I'm sorry, she said, for all of it, for using you, for not seeing you, for thinking love meant having someone wait while I figured out what I wanted. I'm sorry too, I said, that I stayed small for so long, that I taught you it was okay to treat me that way. She shook her head. That's not on you. That was my choice, my failing. Maybe it was both. She smiled then, sad but genuine. You were always too kind. That's not a weakness, I said. Not anymore. We looked at each other one last time, really looked, seeing not who we'd been, but who we actually were. Two people who'd shared a life that hadn't fit either of them. Goodbye, she said. Goodbye. She walked away first. I watched her go, watched her shoulders straighten, watched her disappear into the afternoon crowd. Then I walked in the opposite direction. No looking back, no final wave, no dramatic rain, just two people ending a story that should have ended sooner. That night I deleted her contact, not out of anger, out of completion, the space where her name had been filled with silence, and for the first time, that silence felt like peace. I don't know who she is now, and that's the point. A year after our last meeting, I was having coffee with someone new. Not a date exactly, just someone I'd met at a gallery opening who'd asked smart questions about my work. We were laughing about something inconsequential when a mutual friend joined our table. Have you heard? She asked. Elena got engaged. The name hung in the air. My companion looked at me, curious. I felt nothing. Not relief, not pain, not even the ghost of an old wound. That's good, I said, and meant it. To that guy from her company. Anyway, it seems like she's happy. I hope she is, I said. And I did, genuinely. The conversation moved on, to art, to upcoming exhibits, to autumn light. My companion asked about my next project. I told her about the series I was planning, Portraits of Transformation. Sounds introspective, she said. It is. That's kind of my brand now. She laughed. We talked for another hour, then exchanged numbers. Maybe something would come of it, maybe not. Either way felt okay. Walking home that evening, I thought about Elena's engagement, tried to imagine her happy, settled. I realized I couldn't picture her clearly anymore. The details had blurred, not from time, but from relevance. She'd become a character in a story I'd finished reading, closed, and shelved. Some people lose you the moment they stop believing you can leave. That's what I'd learned. Elena had loved me, in her way, as much as she was capable, but her love was conditional on my smallness, on my willingness to orbit her sun without asking for my own light. She'd stopped believing I could leave, and in that moment she'd lost not just me, but the relationship itself. I'd walked away quietly. No dramatic speeches, no social media posts, no public declarations. I'd simply left, removed myself from her story, started writing my own, and for the first time in my adult life, the story belonged to me. My apartment now had art on the walls, some mine, some from artists I admired, books I'd chosen, a kitchen I actually used, windows that framed a view I'd picked. Friends called to make plans, and I said yes when I wanted to, no when I didn't. I took on projects that excited me, turned down ones that didn't. I spoke in meetings, disagreed in discussions, took up space without apologizing for it. I went on dates sometimes. Some went well, some didn't. I didn't rush into anything, Didn't try to fill the Elena-shaped hole with someone new, because I'd learned that hole wasn't Elena-shaped at all. It was the space where I used to be, before I'd carved myself into something small enough to fit her requirements. One night, I was editing photos when my phone buzzed. "Marcus, she asked about you again." I stared at the message, felt tired, not angry, not hurt, just tired of being someone's unfinished business. "What did you tell her?" "That you're happy, that you're doing well, and..." She said, "Good." Then she cried a little. Then she said she was glad you found yourself. I thought about that, about Elena crying over a version of me she'd helped destroy, then mourning when it rebuilt itself without her. Tell her I wish her well with the engagement. And then, maybe don't tell her about me anymore. It's not helpful, for either of us. Understood. I set the phone down, returned to my work. The photo I was editing showed a man mid-transformation. You could see both who he'd been and who he was becoming, overlapped like a double exposure. I saved it, titled it Departure. The exhibition was 3 months away, my biggest one yet. Galleries from 3 cities interested. I wasn't the same man who'd loved her quietly, wasn't the shadow in photos or the unnamed partner. I was visible, present, loudly, unapologetically myself. And I'd learned something crucial. You can love someone deeply and still need to leave them. You can grieve a relationship while knowing ending it was right. You can wish someone well while refusing to be their backup plan. Love that requires you to stay small isn't love. It's a cage you build yourself, one compromise at a time. I'd walked out of that cage, quietly, without asking permission, and the door had locked behind me, not out of bitterness, but out of self-preservation. I stood up from my desk, stretched, looked around my space, my home, my life, mine. Outside, the city hummed with possibility. Inside, I felt solid, whole, complete, not healed. Healing isn't a destination, but healing actively, choosing myself every day in small and large ways. I didn't know who Elena was now, didn't know if she'd learned what I'd learned, grown how I'd grown. And for the first time since I'd met her all those years ago, I didn't need to know. Her story was hers, mine was mine, and I was finally, beautifully the protagonist.